For many weeks now, the Turks have been resisting joining the American-led international coalition to fight Islamic State, both in Syria and Iraq. But now the parliament has voted to join that coalition, and it reserves the right to attack Islamic State not only inside Syria but also inside Iraq. And this is a very dramatic development. Now, why would the Turks so suddenly change their attitude? Well, this is because there is a very extensive and extremely porous border between particularly Syria and Turkey that is itself a destabilising factor. On top of that, the Turks have come under enormous international pressure to stop the flow of foreign fighters and other volunteers, and particularly of smuggled oil across that border. And ultimately, this becomes a matter of self-defence. It's a self-defence issue because, of course, the Turks don't want any more of that ideological violence coming across their border into the Turkish population. They do know, of course, that a large number of Turks themselves have volunteered to fight inside the ranks of Islamic State. So all added together, the time has come from the perspective of the Turks to actually step up and get involved. Turkey's contribution as the only Muslim nation within the NATO alliance is not just symbolic. Of course, it has, from Turkey's point of view, profound personal national security issues. But from NATO's perspective, it's vital because, of course, the Turks themselves have a very substantial army. They have a very efficient, modern air force. And above all, they've got NATO bases on Turkish soil, notably at Incirlik and at Izmir. There already is a command and control structure that's working alongside Syrian rebel groups to coordinate their efforts inside Syria. So what they can be expected to contribute, and they certainly will have already been asked to contribute to the rebel campaign, will be training bases, command and control structures, and above all coordination, so that these airstrikes that NATO are committing are not being done without any kind of liaison with rebels on the ground, because the danger is if that happens, it is the Assad regime that have most to gain from them. If there's one thing the Turks understand, it is the threats and dangers posed by their neighbours. This has always been something that they've been deeply preoccupied by. They have a number of surveillance aircraft that have been flying along the border areas with Syria, occasionally conducting incursions into Syria. They will have access, of course, to all of NATO's aerial surveillance that's been flown now for many months over Syrian territory. And, of course, they have state-of-the-art fighter bombers that can strike deep inside Syria. On top of that, they've also got surface-to-surface missiles, which bring a great deal more firepower and arguably more accuracy to a campaign, so that they can actually use these to wipe out very significant wide areas of concentration of Islamic State forces. So all of that combined means that the Turks have a great deal to contribute. And then at the back of both the minds of people in the capital in both countries will be whether or not the Turks are prepared to send in ground troops. Now, they haven't ruled that out, which means that they may well be expected to conduct ground incursions to seal off particular important communications routes and, above all, to protect those vulnerable populations.